Bristol is a city renowned for its creativity, vibrant festivals, and electrifying nightlife. On one side, you'll find luxurious restaurants, high-end apartments, and yachts docked in its historic harbor. But on the other side, there are homeless individuals living in actual caves on the outskirts of the city. Yes, not just makeshift tents or shop-front shelters, real caves. The contrast couldn't be more striking. While a privileged few indulge in luxury and comfort, others are struggling to survive in places that should only be home to bats. So, what's the reality of homelessness in Bristol? Let's take a closer look. On a national scale, the number of people sleeping rough on the streets rose by 20% last year, reaching a total of 4,667. This marks the second highest level ever recorded and is nearly double the total from 2021. In Bristol alone, thousands were homeless during Christmas 2024. According to an annual report by the National Housing Charity Shelter, at least 3,900 people across the city, including more than 1,800 children, spent Christmas without a home. In Bristol, that means 1 out of every 121 residents is homeless. In the United States, particularly in cities like New York and Las Vegas, many homeless individuals live in underground tunnels, earning them the nickname mole people. But in Bristol, the situation is quite different. Instead of sleeping in vans or caravans, a group of homeless individuals has taken refuge deep underground, in the caves scattered around the city. Surprisingly, it's not just ordinary citizens who have lost their homes. Even a former soldier has been living in one of these caves for years, pushed to such extremes by the soaring cost of housing and rent in the city. Reaching these caves is no easy feat. The journey itself is a challenge, requiring navigation through narrow pathways and steep cliffs that make access difficult. It's far from an ideal place to live. But for those who have no other options, the caves become their last chance at having a home. These individuals don't just use the caves as makeshift shelters, they transform them into functional living spaces. Inside, you'll find double beds, cooking equipment, and blankets to protect against the freezing cold. Their ingenuity is remarkable. They've even managed to channel water into the caves, using a simple filtration system made from wool hats to create a working sink. To keep the cave clean, they wrap chicken wire around the entrance gate to prevent leaves from blowing into their water supply. Deeper inside, there are remnants of past inhabitants, a small wooden hut with a stone fireplace, evidence that people have lived here long before. Comfort, of course, is relative, but for these individuals, anything is better than sleeping on the streets. Ironically, even though some banks offer special accounts for the homeless, they still require proof of address to open one. Without a permanent address or a bank account, accessing social benefits becomes nearly impossible. This is why many of them go to great lengths to secure some form of shelter, even if it means living in caves. Unfortunately, their choice of residence makes them stand out even more. While those living on the streets or in shelters might still be seen as part of society, cave dwellers are often perceived as outcasts, wilder, more dangerous, or even frightening to the public. Clearly, this kind of life isn't for everyone. The cave itself isn't the only challenge. The bitter cold makes survival even tougher. And despite offering some protection, the caves aren't always safe. They sometimes become gathering spots for heavy drinkers and drug users, meaning the residents have to clean up regularly just to keep their living space habitable. But what's even more frustrating is that authorities frequently evict them under the pretense of wildlife protection. Officials install fences, claiming that human presence disturbs the bats that naturally inhabit the caves. However, to the homeless individuals who live there, This reasoning feels like an excuse. In reality, once the caves are sealed off, they're no longer accessible to humans or bats. The irony is hard to ignore. These fences don't just drive away those in desperate need of shelter, but they also end up blocking the very creatures they were supposedly meant to protect, preventing the bats from leaving to find food. It's no surprise that people have resorted to living in caves. Bristol ranks as the fourth most expensive place to live in the United Kingdom, following London, Cambridge, and Oxford. As a result, record-high private rental costs, unaffordable housing benefits, increasing evictions, and a severe shortage of truly secure social housing have all contributed to the skyrocketing number of homeless individuals in the city. Bristol currently has the highest rate of homelessness in the Southwest. Between October and December 2024, 234 households were forced to leave their rental properties after being evicted by their landlords. Alarmingly, this figure marks a new record, double the number recorded during the same period in 2019. As a result, families that become homeless are typically placed in temporary accommodations provided by the local council. Government data reveals that nearly 45% of these families have been stuck in temporary housing for over 2 years. The chronic shortage of social housing has left more than 1.3 million households on the waiting list across England. Now, more than 6,000 homeless individuals in Bristol seek government assistance each year, a 25% increase since the pandemic. Meanwhile, the cost of temporary accommodation across the UK continues to soar, with annual spending reaching a staggering £2.29 billion sterling. As of January 2024, the average property price in Bristol had climbed to £335,900 sterling, significantly higher than the UK-wide average of £288,000 sterling. Among the homeless population, vulnerable groups, especially women, face even greater risks. Violence lurks around every corner, taking many forms: physical, verbal, and even sexual abuse. Many homeless women are forced into situations that harm them, not because they want to, but because they have no choice. Their very survival depends on it. Imagine a homeless woman caught in a heavy downpour, desperately searching for a safe place to sleep. But the harsh reality is that no place is truly safe. That's why many end up staying with strangers, sometimes in dangerous, even abusive situations, just to have a roof over their heads for the night. This past February, chaos erupted within Bristol's van-dwelling community when a caravan was destroyed in a suspected arson attack on Savile Road. This incident came amid a dramatic rise in the number of people living in vehicles across the city, a staggering 400% increase over the past 5 years, bringing the total to 680 individuals. Homelessness isn't just about surviving life on the streets. It's a stark reflection of the growing gap between wealth and poverty. On one end, some live in absolute luxury, while on the other, people struggle just to afford a single meal. The stigma and discrimination surrounding homelessness continue to worsen, making access to social services even more difficult. The consequences are severe. Mental and physical health deteriorate. Petty crimes increase as people steal just to eat, and social tensions rise, creating an ever-widening divide within the community. Beyond the humanitarian crisis, homelessness also places a massive financial strain on the economy. Governments are forced to allocate enormous funds for social assistance, shelters, and healthcare services. At the same time, areas with high homeless populations often experience declining property values and reduced tourism appeal, impacting local businesses and the city's overall economic health. To address the growing homelessness crisis, the UK government has allocated nearly £1 billion in the national budget for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. Since 2016, investment firm Resonance has poured over $23 million into purchasing and renovating 136 properties across Bristol, including in Southmead, Henbury, Bedminster, and Fish Ponds. This initiative aims to reduce the number of people sleeping on the streets or relying on temporary accommodations. Meanwhile, Polly Neat, the CEO of Shelter, emphasizes that the only permanent solution to homelessness is to build 90,000 truly affordable social housing units every year for the next decade. Without this, short-term aid efforts will continue to be just a temporary fix. On a grassroots level, In Hope, a Christian charity focused on homelessness, hunger, and addiction, has seen a significant surge in people from all walks of life needing food assistance. They run the Wild Goose Day Center, which provides hot meals, laundry facilities, showers, and practical support for individuals trying to rebuild their lives. In addition to the Wild Goose Day Center, In Hope operates Spring of Hope, a dedicated women's shelter, along with a food bank for those struggling to afford basic necessities. They also offer life skills courses to help individuals recovering from addiction gain independence. Through public donations alone, the charity raised £62,000 sterling, and with additional contributions from philanthropists and foundations, they secured a total of £112,000 sterling, critical funds that allow them to continue supporting those in need. While the UK government has committed nearly £1 billion sterling to homelessness prevention, other policy changes, such as the increase in national insurance contributions, have actually reduced funding for frontline services by £60 million sterling per year. As a result, many support programs have faced cuts or struggled to expand, despite the growing demand. Additionally, although Bristol does have emergency shelters and temporary accommodations, their capacity often falls short of housing everyone in need. Many homeless individuals also avoid shelters due to strict rules, safety concerns, or past negative experiences. Most programs prioritize short-term housing solutions, but lack long-term support for employment, skills training, or financial stability. Because of this, many people end up back on the streets after their initial assistance runs out, unable to maintain an independent life on their own.